Okay, well, I suppose there's no surprises for guessing which game's up for this week, given that people that know me know I like a shooter. And this was probably the shooter, other than maybe Apex Legends, that has got me the most in life, and that was Overwatch. Overwatch 2 came out. Well, it's a week ago today. It came out on the 4th of October last week. It's gone from being a game that you have to pay real money for to one of these free-to-play games. I was trying to look at, how do you best describe this game? Because for all intents and purposes, it is an updated version of Overwatch. They're calling it Overwatch 2, which I think is probably the crux of a lot of the ire that it seems to be attracting across the gaming industry. But I say a lot of the ire. It is a significant proportion of the ire, but I actually haven't seen too much negative about this. It seems to be received fairly positively for the most part. I guess for me, I'm left wondering why it needed to be called Overwatch 2 outside of the fact that maybe more people will buy it because it's got a 2 on it. The other thing that I thought about probably is that because it was moving from a paid game to a free-to-play game, by calling it Overwatch 2, even though for all intents and purposes it is Overwatch and it's kind of more like an Overwatch 1.5, calling it 2 maybe will make people less angry about it, feeling like they're having their game that they paid for taken away from them. That's the only thing I can think of, because it's not a 2, it's not a sequel. The big change about this game was meant to be the PvE stuff that they were bringing in, and that's not coming out until next year. So it's just an updated version of Overwatch, and I would much rather it's just called the new Overwatch. But we are where we are, and at the end of the day, we're arguing, or I'm splitting hairs over the name of a game, and does it actually matter? So I guess where to start with this. What is Overwatch? Overwatch is a PvP game. It is a squad-based game in which there are different game modes, but it's a squad-based game mode in which, for the most part, players will have to either transport or hold an objective for longer than the other team. And the winning team are the team that manages to either escort the objective to the end goal or hold a sort of a king of the hill area, hold an area for longer than the other team. The wrinkle to this is it's not just a straightforward shooter, it is a hero-based shooter, meaning that there are classes and each hero has different stats and strengths and weaknesses, meaning that you sort of have to create your own team to go up against other teams. So that is what Overwatch is. That is, again, what Overwatch 2 is. But there are a few differences between Overwatch 1 and 2, which I suppose are probably worth mentioning. As I said before, there's going to be a PvE mode. I'm not sure too much what that's going to involve. I guess we can come back and do another video afterwards. But yeah, it's going to be player versus environment rather than player versus player. They've removed a player. This game used to be 6 versus 6. It's now 5 versus 5. And I guess the big change for that is that it adds the team composition quite significantly. So normally what you'd have is 2 healers, 2 assault characters, and 2 tanks. Now you've got your 2 healers, 2 assault characters, and 1 tank. Tanks have also been, I guess, buff in a certain way, in that they're now the only class that can stun enemies, which means that, because they're so unique in the team composition, there's only 1 of them. Tanks are suddenly becoming an extremely sought after position, and if you're the tank in your team, you need to be making sure that you're playing well and on it and doing your role, this is probably a game. Now there are other games like League of Legends and stuff like that do this, but I never really played them. This is probably for me the game that you need to make sure you're playing your role, and you need to make sure you're playing your role properly. So if you're playing a healing character, you should not be diving headfirst into fights on your own. You should be coming up at the back, making sure that you're keeping everybody else in your team healed up and augmented so that they can do the damage. If you're playing assault, you're the one that should be doing damage. Tank is a bit of both. They can do some heavy damage, but they can also be quite a defensive character, and they tend to have more health as well, so they can absorb more damage. So you should be looking to catch the attention of the enemies. to allow your slightly more squishy assault characters to get in there and do the damage that they need to do. There's new maps in this mode. They are quite fun, but they are and look as they has ever done. So apparently there's one called Circuit Royale, which has been added to the Escort map pool. Escort mode we will come to in a second, because that's one of the other... Is it Escort? We'll come to it anyway. I think Escort is not new. It's something else. So there's also Midtown and Paraiso has also been added, and a new push game mode, that's the one I was trying to think of, called Colosseo, and new Queen Street maps, which are for that mode. There's new heroes. There's a hero called Sojourn and Junker Queen. The interesting thing about this game now is, in previous outings, the way that this game made money beyond you having to do the initial purchase of the game was that it would want you to buy loot boxes, and then you would get cosmetics that you would unlock. Now that this game is free, the heroes are going to have to be paid for, as well as they're going to the sort of standard battle pass mode. And they've done away with loot boxes, which I guess in some ways should be commended, because loot boxes get a lot of stick for being quite predatory and encouraging people to spend money for the chance of getting something they want, which is I think they can be done well. For the most part, they've been done fairly well in Apex Legends. They are expensive, but yes, they have been done fairly well in that game. But this game has chosen not to have them, which is probably should be commended for it, because for the most part, I mean, FIFA, for example, is an example of a game that does loot boxes pretty badly, and is just now rife with them, to the point that it almost feels like your game has been infested by this sort of predatory loot system. And it's nice to see a game doing this. So now if you want the characters, you can just pay money, and if you want something more to work towards, or you want to unlock a few cosmetics along the way, you can get the battle pass, which for the most part seems quite good. I did have a look through it, and it does seem fairly slight to me in comparison to other battle passes like Fortnite and again Apex, but it's there, and I guess they're new to this for the most part, so give them a chance to improve it as seasons go on. The new push mode is here, and it's quite good. So the traditional, there are various traditional game modes in Overwatch and Overwatch 2, but there was a sort of escort mode that is still in Overwatch 2, but this seems to be where this is being pulled for, in which one team is the defensive team, one team is the attacking team. If you're the attacking team, it is your job to hold and escort a payload to the end. It'll go along a set track. You don't have to move it, you just have to be close to it to hold it, and as you're close to it, it moves. The defensive team's job is to stop you progressing the payload. This is a sort of new take on that, in which both teams are looking for to get the payload, so to speak, again to their objective, but there's only one payload and each team has a different objective. So what happens is, if a team has control of the payload, there'll be a robot that will run up and push the payload towards their destination. If you can kill the team and retake control of this robot by killing the people around them and standing next to it, it will run back to the center, in which it will take up your payload and start pushing it in the opposite direction. And it's this sort of, it's called push. It's this push-pull mode in which players battle for control over the robot that will push their payload to their destination, and obviously the winning team, or the team that gets their payload to the end of to their goal. That is probably my favourite thing about this updated version of the game. It is really, really fun mode, and I've had a lot of fun playing that. Apparently the scoreboard has had a bit of a makeover. I'm not really sure how. Let's have a look here. So the scoreboard of old is no more. You will find that Overwatch 2 is a brand new scoreboard with a layout that matches the sequel's newer aesthetic. The appearance of your team's current ultimate status is much cleaner and can be found right alongside the hero's username. The damage taken stat and other stats have instead been replaced by damage mitigated stat, or MIT. This tracks the amount of incoming damage you and your teammates have mitigated, whether that is by shielding your team or landing a biotic grenade or anti-heal on an enemy player. I guess they've done a lot of work here in that they used to have things like how much damage you've taken, how many deaths you've had, and they would also have play of the game at the end of each match. They've got rid of that, I think, in an attempt to make the community less toxic. I don't think it makes the community less toxic. I think what it does is it maybe hides the toxicity underneath a few layers, so that maybe you see less of it. It's a problem with shooters across the board once they get to a certain age, and once they sort of have an established, ingrained community, is that it quickly becomes quite toxic. Apex has its own issue with things like that. I would say, of all the games I've played, Overwatch, and by proxy Overwatch 2, has one of the more toxic communities I've ever encountered, and you will get a lot of very angry people shouting at their screens and going on chat to tell you how rubbish you are at the game and how you're not playing your role, even if you might be. It's just one of these things with these games. They've also added a ping system, added new voice lines. They've reworked the visuals so that the game is much brighter. I was looking at this game when I first loaded it up thinking this looks exactly the same as it did previously. But in fairness, it doesn't. It's a lot brighter, it's a lot more vibrant, and it's just a lot smoother, and it just looks a bit more modern. I guess, if we're honest now, Overwatch 1 was quite an age now, whereas Overwatch 2 is sort of modernised the look, so to take advantage of the new consoles and increase hardware that we now have access to. As I say, they have reworked the tank experience. They've gone from 2 tanks to 1 tank, so every main tank player, I'm reading this from IGN.com by the way, so give them their shout out. Every main tank player likely had a small heartache when the new 5v5 team composition for Overwatch 2 PvP was announced. To balance out the game's new solo tank dynamic, Overwatch 2 has done away with with all stun ability effects for damage heroes. Instead, only tank heroes can do stuns now. What does this look like? Cassie's infamous flashbang stun grenade is now a magnetic grenade that homes in on targets with potential to stick and explode. Similarly, with Mai's primary fire still slows the enemy players, it can no longer freeze them into a popsicle. While some damage heroes still have abilities that deal knockback effects, i.e. Pharah's concussive blast, the effectiveness of damage hero knockbacks has largely been scaled back to reduce the amount of crown control gameplay you see in gameplay, making it a much smoother experience, especially for our often underappreciated tank main friends. There's also more exclusive cosmetics. They call it exclusive classics cosmetics. Let's see what this is. When Overwatch 2 was first teased, it was exciting to see that the heroes would be getting a bit of a makeover, but what does that mean for cosmetic skins you have been collecting for years? This is, I think, actually something that they've done really well. In Overwatch 2 beta, you have an option of choosing from each hero's classic or classic 2 skins. The good news is that all of your previous skins are still available to customize your favorite heroes. So this is nice in that they've remade the game from the bottom up. They've redone all the visuals, and they've gone back to all the skins that were ever available in Overwatch 1, and they've remade them in Overwatch 2, so that if you have skins unlocked, then you can bring them forward, which is a real nice. It's a nice thing that I think they had to do given what they've done, but it's still nice to do it because we do live in a gaming landscape in which people like to do the bare minimum they have to, and if they can possibly get away with it, they will. As I said, yes, they've added Battle Pass content. We've spoke about that a little bit. Instead of having a level, which I can't see anymore, it seems like they've removed the level, and you just get XP, which now counts towards your Battle Pass tiers. And you'll get things like sprays, emotes, voice lines, XP boosts, and skins, and it looks like in the first Battle Pass you can unlock heroes, but I don't know whether that's just the first ones for people that haven't unlocked all the characters. So again, as a little note, people that are moving from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2, if you've played Overwatch 1, when you log in, you'll have all the previous characters unlocked from the get-go. If you're playing Overwatch 2 without having played the first Overwatch, you have to unlock them. And they come in the Battle Pass tiers. I guess that's it. I mean, it's as good as it's ever been. I know I've spoken for 15 minutes now about the changes, and I've not actually spoken about the game, but it's because the actual gameplay is as good as it's ever been. This is a top quality first person shooter, and it's a game that I have lost a lot of hours to and probably will lose a lot more hours to. It's really fun, it's engaging, and it's something different in a world in which we have a lot of team-based, team deathmatch and battle royale games. This is a top of the pile, premium grade first-person shooter, I would call it, that is doing something different. So rather than just being your aim is to shoot and kill people, there are roles that you can take over. If sort of the Call of Duty thing is your thing, there are characters in there like Soldier 76 that will be able to fulfill that. But this also caters for players that have been interested in a competitive shooter but maybe are turned off by the Call of Duties or the Apexes of the world. So if you can be a healer, I do love Apex. It's probably my favourite game ever, but when I play Overwatch 2, I tend to go support class, so I will play a healer. And that is a much different way that you go into a game than you would if you're going in as an assault class. And same with tanks. They have much different roles, and the variation in which the heroes have got different things that they can do is a real interesting wrinkle that means that you have to not only think about how you're playing your character, but also how you're approaching other characters and how you're going to respond to what other characters are doing and what other people have chosen. This is an absolutely fantastic game. It's free. It's probably worth giving a go to see if it's your thing. I would say when I played Overwatch 1, I had a lot of friends that were playing it at the same time, and very often I would turn on my PlayStation to find that I had a full team or very nearly a full team ready to go and wanting to play. Since then, that group has sort of dispersed amongst different platforms, so to speak. So a lot of them are playing, but they're on the PC servers, and because I still play on console, it's not a fun experience, really. And that's that. Yeah, Overwatch 2 is a fantastic game. Let's hope they manage to sort of shake off the smell that seemed to have attached to it, both through bad design choices, making it a 2 that didn't need to be a 2. They've had problems with staff members doing strange things or unsavoury things, and that sort of Activision stink started to rub off on Overwatch 2, and also the Blizzard odd choices they would make in terms of their fan base of late. So let's hope it has it's certainly going to be popular and it's going to do just fine. Let's hope it can find a place to exist and give the players that want to play this game something that they can be happy with. I guess that's it. Yeah, check out my YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe. It genuinely helps increase the view count, which I'm trying to do. And you can follow me on Twitter at DavidSmillie1. I think I am. DavidSmillie. And you can see what else I'm up to. And I guess with that, thanks for watching, guys. I'm out.